everybody. We are in the garden with Mr. Garden Guy, Dave, and we're talking about getting rid of weeds. I mean, when I have weeds, I just call you and you come over and pick them. But...
Right. I don't think that happens very often. But one of the best ways to get rid of them is to go ahead and just get in the soil and start doing a little mechanical means. That's getting something like this.
Oh,
getting down the soil. So there you go, Scott.
Thank
you can get to work while I'm talking here.
I was good for something.
Yeah. And then what you want to do is you want to get these weeds because, you know, one weed, if it flowers, means about 3 to 5 more years of weeds after that. So you got to get to them. You got to get to them early, and it's always a real good idea. The other thing we do, and Bobby, just kind of sweep up in our trees here. This is a constant bane out here in the garden because we've got sun and shade and everything else. But we do have a lot of shade, and shade really helps out. So managing that shade goes a long ways towards controlling those weeds. And of course, water is another thing. By letting the actual soil dry out between waterings is the ideal situation. So right now in a lot of your garden areas right now, you should be watering about every 3 to 5 days. On your lawns, about every 3 to 5 days too. So by letting it dry out in between watering, guess what? You don't get any germination.
There you go.
So it's real important to deeply and infrequently water is talked about in my book, Garden Guide.
All right.
And then the other thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and make sure if you've got weeds out there, and especially the bane of every gardener out there, is this Bermuda grass right there. Don't take it out yet. I want to show you what you want to do. It is crazy.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just go ahead and I just apply about, a quarter to a half an inch of compost right on top of this. Now, bear with me here, Scotty.
So you cover it up.
I cover it up. And then I'll take about 5 to 6 layers of newspaper right on top of that, cardboard on top of that, and then
make your yard look awesome with all that
well,
paper
wait a minute. We're going to help it out here. We're going to help out the visual aspect of this. A little bit of shredded tree trimmings right on top of that, and then you're going to cover this all up. You get the idea, Scott. And what happens is, remember we were talking about shade? Well, darkness is going to starve this guy out. And of course, this time of year, if you go out there and you find this stuff out there, just go ahead and dig it up and remove those rhizomes. These are the small roots and stuff like that. By starving it out this time of year, you're going to go a long ways towards controlling it next spring for our gardens that we're going to start planting here in January or February.
Hey, I got a question for you. Speaking of weeds, I got to do some landscaping and lay some rock down.
Yep.
Do you recommend, so the weeds don't come up, do you have to put plastic down?
No, we do not recommend plastic anymore because without doing plastic, you're going to have a much better environment, and also that water is able to perk through that granite, and you get a much healthier plant material. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and put in about 2 to 4 inches of rock, and that's the ideal situation. Again, shade, and shade on the soil means no weeds.
All right, and newspaper all over.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends on what you read.
How long do you have to leave that down?
Well, you know what? Doesn't take very long. Scotty, you know what? You need to get back to work. I'm going to finish up this segment. Back to you guys.
All right.
I can't win for losing out here.
We're talking about getting rid of weeds, so I've got my little thing here.
Yeah, you got your little thing there.
Hey, and your garden, by the way, looks beautiful. Really, that stuff's really coming up.
It is coming in. There's a lot of different types of, lettuces and kales and broccolis and all the other different types of things, vegetables that you grow. But one thing about this garden, you'll notice, Scotty, is it's very densely packed with lots and lots of vegetables. Reason being is because of the fact it holds the weeds down. By shading that soil, remember shade is the ideal situation for controlling a lot of weeds out here at the right time of day, of course. So we're shading the garden with a lot of different types of weeds. Some other things we use, eucalyptus leaves. They are allelopathic. What's that mean, folks? They actually will kill off a lot of different types of plant material in the soil. Of course, about 4 to 5 inches of mulch and compost. But one of the things we use a lot of stuff out of the kitchen, of course. And this is one of my favorite ways to actually get rid of weeds out here. Take a little bit of vinegar, your 5 to 6% vinegar, and you notice the caps off that, Scotty? The reason being is because of the fact we'll let this evaporate down and it will turn into 10 to 12% vinegar.
Okay.
And you want to go ahead and take something like that and spray it on your weeds. But before you do that, just take a little bit of soap. Now, in this case, I take a little Dr. Bronner soap. You can brush your teeth with this stuff, wash your hair, and kill weeds with it.
Wow.
So just a couple little drops in there. And then, of course, some citrus diluminant oil. You can get this. This is a degreaser. It is organic. About a half a cup is the ideal situation. And then you're going to let that go ahead, like we talked about earlier, and just evaporate down. And it does a great job of getting rid of those weeds naturally in the garden. We stay away from any type of weed killers here in the garden. The other thing we want to do this time of year, a little bit of pre-emergent right over there. You can see the corn gluten meal, and this does a great job on killing weed seed in the soil. and your lawn. And I will tell you what, Scott, this is what you need to be doing this time of year to control those weeds so that later on in the spring, you don't have a weed farm instead of a garden.
We are going to do that. Dave, thank you so much. It's awesome out here weather-wise.
It is beautiful. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stay out here for a couple hours and do a little
I think
gardening.
I'll join you. All right, we'll be back. More Good Morning Arizona and the 9:30 half hour right after this.
They're gunning up to hurt you.